Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Muspat Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Sattvaresvara Samadhati Dhanta Saraswati Goswami Bhagavad Ki Jai Ananta Kodi Vaishnava Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktamani Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Bhog Bhagnath Sam Khanda Radha Khanda Giri Godhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Guru Dwarka Dham Ki Jai, Swami Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, all glories to their Swami. All glories to their Swami. Thank you very much. All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, His Holiness Hanumatpresaka Maharaj, and to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for being here. I'm almost losing my voice because we had a very special celebration over the weekend.
Oh.
Celebrating the 20th disappearance of His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj.
Oh.
Yes, from the crying and the joy and the screaming.
Yeah.
I'm almost losing my voice, so my apologies.
No, that's fine.
Maharaj, my name is Sahadev Das,
Oh,
and I will be your host for today. And welcome to Hare Krishna Africa.
thank you. It's a big place.
I haven't met you in person before.
Ah,
I've heard from you quite a number of times online.
oh,
Like I listened to you when you were with Namara's podcast
uh-huh,
and other videos on YouTube like that.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
And I've also read a little bit about you from ISKCON Desire Tree.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much. It's an honor to have your association with us, Hare Krishna Africa today, which also happens to be the last day of the month of June. So it is very
Uh-huh.
glorious to end the month with your holiness, Maharaja. Thank you so much.
Hmm. It's a great honor to be here. I'm very excited, to participate in this program. Ah,
Hare
Africa is a big enigma.
Yes,
I think even for Africans, Africa is an enigma.
yes,
Even Africans are trying to figure out what is Africa.
yes.
Yeah.
So, Maharaj, since excuse me, since this is your first time speaking here, the format is just like in a temple room setting. So I'm sure you are aware, Srila Prabhupada chanted the Jaya Radha Madhava. Some speakers also prefer to chant the Jaya Radha Madhava, and if you choose to do that, that is
No, no,
fine.
it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. I was used.
Otherwise, yeah, so Srila Prabhupada has chanted. So we put the verse on the screen, and then you
Can
will
I?
see.
Can I? Can I have a PowerPoint show with the verse and
Yes,
everything.
yes. So you have the rights to do that, Maharaj.
Okay, I'll go ahead
And we are
and.
live on YouTube as we speak. So
Oh,
thank you.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Now, can you see my screen?
Yes,
There's Krishna
we can see
entering
your
the forest.
screen. Yes.
Entering the forest.
Krishna Balaram and the Gopas and the cows.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, now I try and find my PowerPoint show. And I push the button.
Yes.
And there, can you see that?
Yes, Maharaj, we can see. Thank
Is
you.
the audio volume is okay? It's good enough?
Yes.
Okay. Narayanam namaskrityam
Namaskrityam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayam Udirayat.
Tato Jayat Jayat.
Yeah. So we offer our obeisances to Lord Narayana, his companion Nara, to Saraswati, Vyasadeva, and this is our very means of conquest, and to Vyasadeva, the author. And here we have Hare Krishna Africa, bringing devotees together, and our institution, which is the Anjana Sutta Academy. Prabhupada says every sannyasi should be head of his own institution for preaching Krishna consciousness. Anjana Sutta is the name of Hanuman's mother, so it matched our name pretty well. And of course, we're all here under the auspicious potency of the founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And then, if it goes ahead here, our next verse, there it is. Okay. So today I think we're going to do, what is it, 3, 9, 38, and 39. So
Yes,
first okay. Yachchatarnga, wait, I didn't practice this. I should have practiced it. I got my web bar on the way there too. Yachchakartanga mat stotram
Yachakatanga Matstotram
mat kata byudayankitam
Matkata Biodayan Kitam.
Yadva tapasite nishta.
Yadva tapasite nishta.
Saisha madanugraha.
Sa Esha Madanograha.
Now, how do we go now? Do people come online and chant, or you chant and I respond, or what's now? How you do the
Uh,
Sanskrit?
Most of the times, the devotees do not respond because it creates some sort of
Habit, habit.
unwanted echo. Yes.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Yeah. Usually,
Okay.
what we do is we have somebody as a chief guest, you know,
Okay.
and then they just respond. See, why don't you chant and I'll respond? Everybody else can chant in their house.
Devotees usually chant, but they chant with their mics muted.
Yeah, yeah. Well, why don't you leave one time and I'll respond. Just the
Okay.
two of us with our
Okay.
microphones
All
open.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. Yacha Karatanga Matstotram
Yachchakartanga matstotram
Matkata Biodayan Kitam.
makatabhyudayankitam
Yadvapa tapasite nishta.
yadva tapasite nishta
Sa esha madanugraha.
saishamadanugraha yat
Yat,
that which
that which
chakarta
Jakarta
performed
performed
anga
anger,
o Brahma
O Brahma,
matstotram
Mat Stotram,
prayers for me
prayers for me,
matkata
Mat Kata,
words regarding my activities
words regarding my activities,
abhyudhaya ankitam
Abhyudaya Ankitam,
enumerating my transcendental glories
enumerating my transcendental glories.
yat
Yat,
or that
or that,
va
the,
either
either,
tapasi
tapasi,
in penance
in penance,
te
te,
your
your
nishta
nishta,
faith.
faith.
And this is maybe one to take a little time here because this is kind of because usually we're used to the word shraddha, as
Yeah,
faith.
yeah,
And ado shraddha, sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya, narta nivritti nishta, you
yeah,
know. So it's a very kind of unusual use of the word, nice sticky, and it's more like an indication of a certain level here. So what is being translated here is faith.
yeah.
Saha,
Saha,
that.
that,
Eshaha,
Eshaha,
all these.
all these.
Mat,
Mat,
my.
my,
Anugrahaha,
Anugraha,
causeless mercy.
causeless mercy.
Yachataranga matstotram matkatabhyudayankitam yadvatapasite nishta saishamad anugraha. Okay. In translation, O Brahma, the prayers that you have chanted, one, praising the glories of my transcendental activities, the penances you have undertaken to understand me, yeah, and your firm faith in me, all these are to be considered my causeless mercy. So you repeat, or we just go ahead here? Okay. So we're two prayers, and I have the prayers kind of together. Then we can look at the purports because they go together very well. But we wanted to make a little perspective in all of these, even just for our own benefit, because as being a sannyasi and being in the modern world, we're participating in our local classes. We're here in the Houston Temple, Nilamadavadam, which is very beautiful, community, actually a whole village, within maybe, two blocks or one block of the temple, there's like 35, 40, 50 different houses and apartment houses and so many things that all belong to the temple. And they moved here 50 years ago, all from Tamal Krishna Maharaj's genius, inspired by Prabhupada's causeless mercy. And so part of the community, the active part of the community, is also regular Srimad Bhagavatam classes. And then other individual classes, with the brahmacharis, and they have an entire primary school with a capacity of 150 children that was built, from the ground up. So it's actually a whole village, and you can actually look at it as a village of Krishna Katha, and that's what makes it work. And so I'm giving class here, and here they've gone through the entire Bhagavatam at least once, and now they're back on the first canto. Krishna arrives in Dwarka. Krishna arrives in Dwarka. And so we're very much absorbed in that. We have WhatsApp groups discussing different levels of the Sanskrit and the ideas, and as people are looking at the lotus feet of Krishna, but after a lot of reading all the way through the Chaitanya Charitamrita, many very, very nice advanced devotees here. So I'm absorbed in that. And then also we're giving class for Hawaii. And in Hawaii, they're in the story of Chitraketu. Yeah. So like that, that's very unusual. And the fact is, my body is 77 years old. I'm like about what is it now? About 60% deaf. Okay, it's maybe 50% blind, so on. And my short-term memory is going all quite predictable, all quite natural, and all quite nice. Prabhupada says old age is a good friend for a devotee. It's just very nice, being able to get old like this and see what's happening, in a very Krishna conscious perspective, But definitely, yeah, I can't just load up a whole new idea about different parts of the Bhagavatam, and then give us kind of superficial class on this or that. I'm forced to work with more deeper awareness. So anyway, we'll go through more details after we look at the specific prayers here. But this is Lord Vishnu, responding to Brahma's contribution. And he's especially pointing out three things here. We find this is very useful, that when you look at the texts and the purports, making PowerPoint shows you can break them into different sections. If you listen to the Krishna book dictations, which are available there online, you can actually hear how Prabhupada is actually dictating the original books. And sometimes was remembering he puts in paragraph breaks like that, But other times he'll be going ahead and paragraph breaks will be put in, it seems like, by the editors. They had to do something, And so sometimes we were looking at it, and maybe a paragraph break, they made, for some reason, it's right in the middle of an idea, So you're not able to really look at the books as this jnana yoga. You're stuck on the level of trying to just read them. And well, no, we won't read them. You want to understand them. Prabhupada organized this as ideas, and this is the first level of Shmaranam, where we actually can, organize the thoughts logically, and different kinds of logic, of course. So anyway, here Lord Vishnu is praising Brahma. Well, first thing, because the prayers that you have chanted, praising the glories of my transcendental activities. So the first thing he's doing prayers. So the essential part of Bhakti Yoga And Nectar of Devotion Prabhupada said we should all select different prayers for our recitation. Of course, every morning we have the Gurvastika, Sangsara Dava Nalalila Loka, and we can memorize the word by word meaning. We can chant with attention and try and just chant with feeling and say them with meaning and and comprehension like that, and it has a powerful effect. Okay, so he's saying these prayers, and then the second thing, and they're glorifying the Lord's transcendental activities. You might see they're illuminating the transcendental activities of the Lord, like a very, very nice picture, the Mona Lisa. Yeah. If somebody told you that they wanted you to make a frame for the Mona Lisa in the Louvre in France, yeah, it's quite a job, quite a job. So that's our job, illuminating Krishna. But of course, you can also illuminate somebody's bad qualities or illuminate them in a distorted fashion. But so praising the glories means illuminating the good aspect, the glorious aspect of Krishna's activities. So he's offering these prayers, which are praising the glories of my transcendental activities. Okay. And the second thing is he's undergone penance. Now, it's interesting because a lot of my preaching was in Spanish in the Latin American community. Usually I would be down there about 3 months out of every year, and then also visiting Mexico and Spain. And so it's interesting, you probably yourselves, having access to more than one language, because a language means very much a culture, like for example, in English, in American English, girls used to be named Chastity. That was a girl's name for a girl, and girls were proud of it. Another one was Piety. But now, if you go around to an ordinary, even educated, somebody who's gone to high school and maybe a little bit of college, they don't even know what these words chastity and piety mean in many cases. They've disappeared from the language. Chastity. Oh, she's chaste. Piety. Oh, she likes pie. I mean, really, it's really interesting. But in Spanish language in South America and Latin America, which I think is, I would say, probably much more similar to Africa, um, people still value these things. They still consider these things. They still have this culture of ethical moral character. So the word penance is very similar. Penance and austerities. Penance in many ways, idea goes to being restricted from things. Like in American English, we say penitentiary. It was specifically that. The idea was that people had been doing something wrong. So then the punishment would not be to brand them on the forehead, thief or whatever it was, or cut off their hand or something, or whip them. But they should stay. Many times the idea was sitting, in a place where there was nothing but the Bible. It was the only book they would have. And so then they would be forced to read the Bible. This is very similar to the Confucian idea of Reformation that we've heard. So that was a penitentiary where people would do penance. And the penances you have undertaken to understand me. So he's doing something positive. He's offering prayers and glorifying the Lord, which is a very, 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 very engaging activity. And he's also renouncing things. Sitting still and giving up different activities. And the third thing, and your firm faith in me. So we always talk about, Adoshwada, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Nartanavriti, Nishta, Ruchi. And these are the different stages of, basically waking up, development of devotional service. And in a summary, they are Kanishta Adhikari, Majjhima Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. You know? But these other ones, Doshvada, that verse, which Prabhupada quotes many times, those are the same stages, but in more detail, you know. And so it's important when you're undergoing a cure that you know the different stages and that you can help the doctor. He understand what he's doing, what I'm supposed to do at this stage, what's the goal of this medicine, this exercise, this diet, his activities, you know. So usually it says the doshvada that begins with a little faith. And I say, well, your sister invites you or your brother says, hey, come with me to the Hare Krishna temple Sunday feast. I got an invitation. I think it's pretty good. So you may say, well, okay, I'll go, but if it's not nice, I won't go again. So you have a little bit of preliminary faith, a little bit of determination. You're going to give it a try. You're going to do something, from your side. And if you do that, then you get a nice experience, the doshvada sadhu sangha, and then my phone's going off here. I gotta stop my phone because it's telling me I have to register for my air ticket. Okay. Yeah. Adosha sadhu sangha. And then you say, hey, I want to hang out with these people more. Are you going again? When are you going? What are they? And especially you begin to realize, oh, they have an acharya and how to associate with the acharya. Will we bow down to him, his statue? We hear his books. So Adoshvada, so that's a little bit more faithfulness because everything that is different levels of faith ultimately. Faith is a positive, active activity. It's not something that somebody injects into you. That's a verse we're going to come to. So in these levels, it comes to nishta, which means steady, fixed. Prabhupada says it means chanting your rounds all the time, not sometimes. Yeah. But with attention, the bad habits are going away. You're becoming fixed like that. And so there's nishta. And because of that, then you start to get a taste in devotional service. So there we would think that Raganuga Bhakti, and Raganuga Bhakti is beginning there. But anyway, he's glorifying his determination because you're offering prayers, because you're renouncing different things, maybe following the four principles. Yeah. And because of these things, which are of course a part of faith, in whatever service you're doing it with fixed determination. All these are considered to be my causeless mercy. Okay. So I know maybe our audience too, you're thinking, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Then Krishna gives you some experience, or else, you're just getting it all the time by doing it. And you realize that, my goodness, the amount of contribution I'm making, to this process and purification and my progress and my participation in the Sankirtan movement are actually quite small, or even almost non-existent. But no, we are doing something, yeah. But from a broad sense, that is also Krishna's mercy. Out of his mercy, he creates the living entities. So our fundamental nature and free will, which may be small, but it's ours. And in that respect, we can claim some responsibility and feel proud of what we're doing. But in an ultimate sense, which is maybe relevant to our conscious existence, we wouldn't exist without Krishna's mercy. O Brahma, the prayers that you have chanted praising the glories of my transcendental activities, the penances you have undertaken to understand me, and your firm faith in me, all these are considered to be my causeless mercy. And if we go on to the next verse, because they're related here, Pritoham astu bhadram te, lokanam vijayechaya, yad astau hir gunamayam, nirgunam manuvarnayam. I am very much pleased by your descriptions of me, in terms of my transcendental qualities. Wow. So usually we think that people shouldn't be proud of hearing their glories, you know, that when people are talking about their glories and all these kind of things and introducing you for a lecture or something like that, you know, you think that, oh, people should be, shouldn't be proud and standing up and say, go on, go on. But that's where Krishna may be different than us. That's his job. He's the enjoyer, right? He's the supreme enjoyer. So he's supposed to be enjoying different people glorifying this, glorifying that. If people start talking about you and saying, oh, this and that, your bodily feature, your eyebrows, your nose, your your posture, the luster of your body, yeah, you start feeling completely ridiculous. Yeah. But in Krishna's thing is he's feeling happiness, he's soaking it in. I am very much pleased by your descriptions of me in terms of my transcendental qualities, which appear mundane to mundaners. As they go, yeyatam mam prapajante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. Yeah. If we approach Krishna that way, then we're thinking he's such an arrogant fellow, always taking people talking about his glories. But Krishna allows them to see him as a limited being, composed of uh, good and bad qualities. Otherwise, we couldn't exist in the material world. A person composed of dual character, which appear mundane to the mundaners. I grant you all benedictions in your desire to glorify all the planets by your activities. So this is, of course, excellent series of excellent encounter. Lord Brahma is describing to Vidura, how, or Maitreya is describing to Vidura how Brahma, first came in contact with the Lord, how everything was created, where it all came from, and so on. So look at the purports here. Okay, so two very, very nice purports, and then let's look at the first one. When a living entity desires to serve the Lord in transcendental loving service, okay, and of course that's very rare. Manusyanam Sahasreshu. Out of many thousands of people, only one will really try to achieve something, or even consider there is something beyond sense gratification and fruitive activities. You have to rethink your drink. That's the problem. Yeah. Or you got to change your cigarette, change your smoke. Go, another woman, another man. Oh, another. Yeah. And some very, very few people, like, Albert Camus or Socrates or Shakespeare, in different cultures, a few people, they've actually made this thing about, they realize we're going to die. Everything else is useless. So they actually set their ideas on sat. Is there a possibility for immortality? I'm going to strive for it. So out of many thousands of people, only one person, and you probably know this being a devotee, if you're born in a good culture like India or other places like that, you may find more people interested in this than out of many thousands. But out of many thousands, only one actually realizes Brahman, becomes convinced, yes, there is a reality. And you find people, I can name Alfred North Whitehead, a big philosopher from Harvard, Walt Whitman. There's so many people in different cultures. They've actually really convinced there is a reality, and we're a part of that reality. And that's okay. Some people out of 1,000 people who get taken the process up or taken it up, some are convinced of it. But out of the thousands of Brahman realized persons, one person is going to actually make this conviction. No, the thing is actually to love God, Allah, yeah, Muhammad, his prophet, yeah. Oh yeah. When a living entity desires to serve the Lord in transcendental loving service, the Lord serve the Lord. The Lord helps the devotee in so many ways as the Chaitya Guru. So maybe this is second initiation, and probably even indicates that. First initiation, Sambandha, they pay, I work. But in second initiation, we begin to be able, Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bachatam Pratibhuvakam. We begin to be able to trust our inspiration, our intuition. We begin to be able to hear the Chaitya Guru clearly from inside, the spiritual master within. And thus the devotee can perform many wonderful activities beyond material estimation. By the mercy of the Lord, even a layman can compose prayers of the highest spiritual perfection. Such spiritual perfection is not limited by material qualifications, but is developed by dint of one's sincere endeavor to render transcendental service. Voluntary endeavor is the only qualification for spiritual perfection. Voluntary endeavor is the only qualification for spiritual perfection. Material acquisitions of wealth or education are not considered as a goal. Janmaishwarya, Shruta Shribir, Janmaishwarya Shruta Shribir, Edama. Okay. Queen Kunti, right in the beginning, says these four things. Janma Aishwarya Shruta Shribir, taking birth in a good family. Aishwarya, having great opulence. Janma Aishwarya Shruta, having heard properly, having a nice education. Shribir, having a very beautiful body. These four things only tend to intoxicate us so that we can't engage in voluntary endeavor, to serve Krishna. We're just totally intoxicated and motivated by our education, beauty, good heritage, and all these kind of things. Material acquisitions of wealth and education are not considered. But if we acquire different opulences for Krishna's service by our voluntary endeavor, then that's something different. That's something different. And we can be proud of the work we did. And we feel that I did this. And sometimes we see Krishna put obstacles in our path just so we'd appreciate, that what we got was something, that took some sincere effort. And then maybe also it taught us that other people were also in the same project, trying to build a temple together. And it caused so much, deepening of our bonds and relationships and team building, to work together with other people, other devotees, and understanding them more and going through so many things like that, So acquiring wealth and education, those perspectives is our goal, actually. But material acquisitions is not proper. Of course, many examples. Dhruva Maharaj, little boy, Lord Vishnu touched his head. He began to offer prayers. I think in many other ones too. The Daksha, when he saw he had the head of a goat, he was offering prayers. It's actually as I was reading.
Maharaj, Krishna Maharaj, I'm sorry to interrupt. We can hear your divine voice, but we cannot see your divine form.
That's because my camera's off.
Okay.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
My divine form. Yeah. I have I have actually two divine. I have two other divine forms. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So which one do you want? The pig, the monkey, or the monk? Yeah. You got all three there.
We prefer the monk.
Okay. The monkey. Well, they're all lurking behind the scenes, behind the eyeballs. Okay. So it would be one nice project to go through and look at all the people who were transformed and then began to offer prayers. I'm just thinking of it. They come to my mind so quickly. Aditi did a sacrifice, and then Vishnu appeared before her and she offered prayers. What did Vasudeva and Devaki? As soon as you start thinking on this topic, so many things come that people were qualified beyond their actual situation, you know, and even they were spiritually advanced to some degree. So this is Krishna's causeless mercy. But let's go on here. See what the next purport has to say. Okay. And so here's somebody in the ocean over here. It says, I love this picture. You know, Krishna says, I'm the quick deliverer from birth and death. So we're drowning in the ocean. And there's no, once you drop in the ocean, man, it's just, you're finished. Maybe you have a life preserver. If you look at like World War II, documentaries and stuff, so many people were tossed off of the ships so their airplanes would go down. And sometimes they had nothing, no life preservers or little boats. And sometimes they did. But then when you start pulling back and looking at even in the little boat, the ocean is really big. And so they would even see planes passing over. But here we are in the ocean of birth and death. And Krishna says, I become their quick deliverer, and he comes just like this to Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma is waking up, and just like us, every day we wake up. So many times we wake up from some activity in our area, even when we're so-called awake, but we're doing something, and then we just lose our intelligence, our perspective, and we have to reawaken it. So in our next prayer here, it's all Krishna's mercy. Okay. Prabhupada says, he does. I have a taskbar here, which is sticking in my face. I got to try and move it out of the way. It won't go. A pure devotee of the Lord like Brahma and those in his line of disciplic succession always desire that the Lord be known all over the universe by each and every one of the living entities. Okay. Yeah. That desire of the devotee is always blessed by the Lord. Now it says a pure devotee. So if I haven't got that desire, or if I only have it partly, or only in certain circumstances, then I'm only partly a pure devotee. Maybe Kanishna Majjhima Uttama. Yeah. So we have to figure out what level we're on. And as we become more and more enlivened by Krishna's necessities, Krishna needs this, Krishna needs that. And then after a while, we begin to see that the whole world is only designed for Krishna's satisfaction. And then we begin to see how everybody could be a devotee, and everybody could be engaged in really interesting, important work, And then so we have to realize what is Prabhupada's mission, what is Lord Chaitanya's mission, and then depth. Then we see we can print for Prabhupada, we can cook for Prabhupada, we can sing for Prabhupada, we can dance for Prabhupada, we can understand for Prabhupada, we can organize for Prabhupada. And then when we begin to meet people and learn how to meet them, and then we have this desire that everybody, everybody can be involved. That is the desire of the devotee is always blessed by the Lord. That desire of the devotee is always blessed by the Lord. Wow, probably speaking from realized knowledge. The impersonalists sometimes pray for the mercy of the personality of Godhead, Narayana. Okay. Probably thinking more about India to some degree. The impersonalists sometimes pray, the Mayavadi sannyasis, for the mercy of the personality of Godhead Narayana as the embodiment of material goodness. Yeah. So they offer prayers, but they're not to Narayan. They think that everything is ultimately impersonal, void. Yeah. And so Prabhupada's preaching to against this Mayavad Advaita philosophy here. Okay. But such prayers do not satisfy the Lord. And he says he's satisfied. He says he's actually satisfied because he is not thereby glorified in terms of his actual transcendental qualities. Okay. The pure devotees of the Lord are always most dear to him, although he is always kind and merciful to all living entities. He's the supreme enjoyer. Yata tayor mula nischanena. Yeah, okay. Yata tayor mula. Just as the branches and the twigs and the fruits and the flowers, the leaves all become nourished by pouring water on the root of the tree, and just as the stomach, distributes food, and just as by worshiping Narayana, everybody benefits, same way engaging in devotional service to Krishna benefits everybody. So Krishna knows that the more he's happy, and the more he knows that everybody else is happy, and there's benefit being taken from even a little contribution, he can distribute that. So then he's satisfied when he can actually serve everybody. The pure devotees of the Lord are always most dear to him, although he is always kind and merciful to all living entities. Here the word gunamayam is significant because it indicates the Lord's possessing transcendental qualities. Yeah. So of course this is Prabhupada's occupational duties. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Different acharyas in our line had to deal with different situations, different problems, different challenges. I was being invited and pushed to start working with the Bhaktivedanta Institute with Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami. And in some ways, it was very compatible with my nature, but other ways, I was really doubting it. Is it worthwhile? I started the university in science, and then I saw some limits in that, so I changed to biology. I saw limits in that, so I changed to psychology, and by then I had to graduate, although I was starting improvisational theater. So going back and working in science was like, well, I already did that, and it's so tedious. But then I met Tamal Krishnamars when we were traveling on a traveling Sankirtan on a puppet tour one time in New York, and I asked him, "You were involved with the preaching and this and that, and how important is this science preaching?" And he got me on his Tamal Krishnamars laser gaze and said, um, Prabhupada said over and over again for his entire last year, scientific preaching is my number one preaching program. You idiot. Yeah, he didn't say idiot, but it was implied. Yeah. And I met Rabindra Swarup about a week later in the same tour, and he said the same thing in a more friendly, intellectual fashion. But yeah, so Prabhupada had different preaching programs. Lord Chaitanya was preaching to a certain class of people. Bhakti Siddhanta was preaching to a certain class of people. Only because Bhakti Siddhanta established that Vaishnavas can worship Shalagam Shila, can chant the Gayatri mantras, was Prabhupada able to give us all this facility of deity worship and all these things like that. He said that because of that I was able to do this. And so then Prabhupada, his job partly was then to establish the literature and put the literature all over the world. Then I was thinking, well, why not? Our job is then to take the literature and make movies out of it and these kind of things and bring it into the popular media. We have so much resource in terms of literature and these things, but it should go into thousands of different books and all these kind of things. And then Bhakti Charu Swami, I met him and he said, yes, that was my conclusion also. So each of us, every generation, each of us individually has this responsibility of, understanding who are our friends and who are our enemies, and who are our students, and who are the enemies of our students, and protect our students from those people and enlighten them and save them from those desires. So that's kind of our little summary. We went a couple more things here. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah. Krishna, Prabhupada says Krishna by himself is not very attractive. There's Krishna by himself, But when he is surrounded by his potencies and glorified by his potencies, especially his internal potency, then he is very attractive. So this is our job. We are the Lakshmis and the servants of the Lakshmis, and we are the Garudas and the servants of the Garudas. Yeah. And that's our job, what we're supposed to be doing. Krishna, we're the picture frame, And these two verses are especially, talking about how Lord Brahma is doing this and how it is the natural position of the living entity. Okay. Also, this is we have a whole PowerPoint show and a whole presentation on the Bhagavatam, all 12 cantos. But this is Krishna. The Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God. The first two cantos are his lotus feet. The second, the third, and fourth cantos are his legs. And the fifth is his waist, 6 is his chest, 7 and 8 are his arm, 9 is his throat, 10 is his face, 11 is his forehead, and 12 is his helmet. So it's actually a very progressive study, and being here on the third canto means that we've gone beyond bowing down and kissing the ground and begging for apology, begging to be forgiven for our stupid activities, and then we're starting to go up where we can, we touch the feet, and now in the third canto is coming to the point where we're starting to actually, again, look at Krishna's legs, and we're going to Sambandha Abhideya, coming towards Abhideya now. And these prayers, of course, is a whole reason why Lord Brahma and Vishnu are talking. It's not just a jumble of different prayers and things like that. There's a whole explanation. First two cantos are Krishna's lotus feet. And after that, there's a question which leads to talking about all the different Manus after Swayambhuva. And that's why it progresses. Then comes up to his 10th canto, which is Krishna's pastimes. And 12 is, I think, back to the our Manu. Yeah. And second, a bar. I think it was this bar, Yeah. And then number 12 is epilogue. After everything's over, it goes back and gives a perspective when everything has been spoken like that. And the whole essential verse for the whole process is this one thing, and we're going to finish here now. For nectar of instruction, which constitutes first instructions for neophyte devotees, uh, uh, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 107 is cited again and again. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunaya Shravanadi Shudechite Karadeujaya. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of living entities. It is not something to be gained from some other source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, the living entity naturally awakens. And Prabhupada says in Nectar of Instruction, since Krishna consciousness is inherent in every living entity, even Lord Brahma and all of Lord Brahma's, disciples, potential disciples in his universe, everyone should be given a chance to hear about Krishna. So we begin hearing Bhagavad Gita, then we hear the first canto, second canto, third canto. Simply by hearing and chanting, one's heart is directly purified and one's original Krishna consciousness is immediately awakened. So that's the whole process of what we're doing, and we want to thank everybody today. We've had Socrates did the same thing. That's his picture there. But we want to thank everybody. We all had a very, again, by the mercy of Prabhupada, very, very wonderful opportunity. And if you want any more contact with us, we have a blog, monkeywarrior.com. And you can log on there, and then we have, engaged in more dialogues and discussions. And eventually we have even a WhatsApp group so people can join different programs like that. So thank you all very much. Any questions, comments, complaints, or donations?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for, in the first place, being here with us. And secondly, imparting this depth of wisdom with us today. Yes. So what we usually do is that after the speaker speaks, devotees may have some doubts and they may want these doubts cleared. So we request the devotees to raise their virtual hand or their physical hand if they have questions, if they have comments, realizations, reflections of what is being discussed here today. So please, you may do that. Hare Krishna.
The virtual hand.
Yes.
Yeah. Sahadev.
Namcharya Prabhu, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, and all the devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept.
Ramacharya is in Croatia. It's a part of Africa. It's a part of Africa. I think it's North Africa.
Yeah, we have a time zone similar to some parts of Africa. Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, devotees, for organizing this. So, Guru Maharaj, my question is regarding the word two words, causeless mercy. Okay, that question will be, is not mercy already causeless, and it's like redundant to call it or to qualify it as causeless mercy?
Yeah. There's a really nice book. What's it called? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. You know this book?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's a very nice book. There's so many things. You see, it's our philosophy. The guy's figured it out. And he says, mother's love is causeless, but father's love, you got to earn it. You see that, right? Right away, you know. Your mother's always going to love you or whatever, deal with you. But if you want your father to love you, you have to go out and kill a lion. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, and then different cultures. Okay, and maybe in America you have to go out and get your first job, for a corporation, and your dad says, okay, now you're isn't that so fun? Yeah. So that's the thing is that, and I'm not sure exactly the Sanskrit. Other people can go in anu graha, and other people anu going after it, and graha means grabbing or something, Yeah. But yeah, that's what I would say, that sometimes mercy is calculated, and in the material world, you can use the term and people understand it quite clearly in the material world. Well, they're very merciful, Yeah, but it's because you're qualifying for it. You're doing something. You showed up at the right place at the right time. In some aspects, Krishna's mercy very much depends upon us opening our mouth. Maybe we can't do anything else, but at least if we don't refuse to open our mouth, then we're not going to get any mercy. But Lord Nityananda comes along and forces your mouth open. Lord Chaitanya doesn't require it, but Nityananda forces it open. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else with something to ask or to share? Well, Maharaja, I have a question, which is kind of similar to the earlier question put. So if I may share the screen here. The translation, the text itself, it says, "O Brahma, the prayers that you have chanted, praising the glories of my transcendental activities, the penances you've undertaken to understand me, all these are to be considered my causeless mercy." So we understand from the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says that he is not partial to anyone. He's equal to each and everyone. So In the proportion, Paul was talking about the desire, someone having the desire to serve the Lord. So my question is, even for me to have the desire to serve the Lord, must be the causeless mercy of the Lord.
Yeah.
So why does Krishna give me this causeless mercy to come in contact with the devotees and try to serve him in my own little way? And there are so many others who do not receive this causeless mercy of the Lord. And how does this make the Lord impartial? If you
It's a big question, and I'm a a moderately small devotee, yeah, like that, so on. But it is. I mean, you'll find it in the Bible. In my whole history of Christianity, you'll find the same question. You'll find it in specific groups. You'll find Saint Francis dealing with this question. You'll find the Mormons dealing with this question. And just so many times it's a very, very complicated question, and it's so like what there's one phrase that says nobody knows who discovered water, but it probably wasn't a fish. Yeah. And so like that is such a pervasive question, in some ways maybe the only question, that we were getting the answer being discussed again and again and again, and so many times like that. And so it's not a small thing. In my own development of understanding it, one thing that happened was I kept seeing that Prabhupada was saying efficient cause, material cause, ultimate cause, again and again, and he was just using those words. And then maybe about like 7 years ago, I ran across, looking at you look at different philosophers. Yeah, it's important. It can be very useful. So anyway, then I saw that these are categories that were used by Aristotle. Western philosophy, you might start with Socrates, go to Plato, go to Aristotle, go to Immanuel Kant or somebody, like that. Yeah, you can. Western philosophy is a whole succession. So Aristotle is one of the bases of everything we're thinking about. And so he was using these three categories of causes: the ultimate cause, the efficient cause, and the material cause. Yeah. And so, and probably these entered into our acharyas, maybe with Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Then later on, Bhaktisiddhanta adopted them, and then Prabhupada's using them. But there's not like any explanation. But there is. Some boy, he's old enough to drive now without his father. Maybe he's like 16 or 17 now. And so on Saturday night, his father gives him the keys of the car and says, okay, you're going to go pick up your four friends, and you're all going to go to the high school, football game, and afterwards stop off and, have some at the ice cream parlor and have something. Here's $10, Okay, but be home by 10 o'clock. So at 10 o'clock, he's not here. At 10:15, he's not there. The father begins to worry. This is before cell phones. So by 10:30, he gets a call from the local police department. They say, "Oh, Mr. Smith, your son was out driving and a little bit erratically, and we pulled him over, and we found that in the back seat of the car was a 6-pack of beer, and, and all the boys we tested were a little bit loose, and we got him here, and you can come down and bail him out, and you can see the judge tomorrow, or what do you want to do?" So who's guilty? Well, the material cause is the beer. Okay, so the police can just arrest the beer. Okay, we're arresting you. Yeah, in some ways they do. If there's any extra beer there, all the boys are under drinking age, they're going to arrest the beer. Okay, so the beer is the cause of it. Okay, we got it. The efficient cause is the boys. They had their choices, they had their free will, and then and the ultimate cause is the father, because he gave the keys to the children, this and that. So should they come over and just knock on his door and say, stick him up, you're under arrest, your boy was drinking? But no, he exercised proper discrimination in giving them the keys. There was no history. If there was a history of his doing this and he killed somebody driving like that or caused some property damage, yeah, then he would be a part of the lawsuit. So that's about, to me, was a very clarifying example that, yeah, Krishna has causeless mercy, but there's different categories of causeless mercy. One category of causeless mercy is that every living entity, he gives them the opportunity to hear about him. And he, even though they put themselves under rocks and this and that kind of stuff, and his causeless mercy is he lets them turn away from him. He lets them go and do their own thing. He lets them try to imitate him. The kids want to act like the parents. If you have been around kids, you know that even though it's not good for them and everything else, and maybe even they know it's still a demand to do it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have a full glass of water and I'm going to carry it into myself, and they spill it and they just, terribly frustrated and everything else. No, take a child's glass. No. So Krishna is giving his causeless mercy. We haven't earned it, to every living entity. And out of his causeless mercy, he also lets us do stupid stuff, but it's controlled. It's within a range where we're not going to cause any big problems, And then those living entities who are making the choice, to receive it or want it, and maybe they wanted 25%. So, okay, then 75%, he won't force it on us. But then some people are getting it, and some people are getting it a lot, and some people are getting it moderately. Well, yeah, again, that's their choices dependent upon that. I mean, probably you experienced that. You see that some people want it, but they don't want it that much. Okay, so they can take this much, So Krishna's willing to give them more, And so that was kind of like my perspective on it. I don't know if that helps or not.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Your answer satisfies my question. Krishna is so expert. He oftentimes acts in such a way that one may think that he could be blamed for our problems, but he cannot be blamed. We have to blame ourselves.
But ultimately, see, in the ultimate sense, yes, because he's the cause of everything. Yeah. And so you see, Prabhupada directly says that sometimes that Krishna does feel, okay, I made them, and I made them this way. And so that, in the ultimate sense, I'm responsible. So therefore, he also made us indestructible, and so that, okay, even though we can do so many stupid things and everything else, in the end, he made us indestructible. Okay, yeah.
I have one other question. That is from Srila Prabhupada's purport to the same text. And if I may share that also on the screen, that is the last two sentences of the purport. Voluntary endeavor is the only qualification for spiritual perfection. Material acquisitions of wealth or education are not considered. This is quite clear to me. I do not have questions as to why Srila Prabhupada makes this statement, but I'm also wondering, having material acquisitions of wealth or education, couldn't that also enhance one's preaching and reaching out to a larger sect of people in the world? Because I remember you shared your screen and you were talking about how Krishna is happy when someone is trying to spread his glories all over the universe. And as I understand, Srila Prabhupada also personally asked some of his disciples to preach to college students,
Mhm.
and also go to universities to attain higher degrees, to reach out to such high people in society. So I'm just trying to find out from you if you can help us how these material acquisitions could also be used in the service of Krishna, even though they themselves may not be the qualification for spiritual perfection.
Yeah, I mentioned it a little bit. I would kind of focused on the example of building a church for Krishna. And maybe some people have been involved in that in their community. You have like a community, and you're meeting in people's homes or in the park, you know, and you get somebody's home, and then finally you say, yeah, we need a center. And maybe you buy something and renovate it or build it. Uh, and it's an experience. Anybody who's gone through that, as the building goes up, the false egos become stimulated. Who's going to control this? Who's going to control that? And so it's a one very, very practical, experience in bhakti yoga. I one time talked to a Catholic priest and I said, "Do you have any books on building churches?" And he smiled and said, "Yeah, it's called Built of Living Stones." Yeah, it's a whole process. And Krishna brings out the contaminations. He does so much work in people's lives when they work together on a project like that. Of course, organizing a Rath Yatra, involves the same work. Uh, Specifically, and then you can be proud. I did something. I'm small, and Krishna has given me this free will eternally, and these abilities, and I did something. Yeah, and I had to work, and yeah, Jayananda, who's famous as incarnation of humility, I had his association so much. It's very nice. And one time he said, humility doesn't mean just not being artificially big. It also means not being artificially small. Yeah. Oh, Prabhu, I'm nothing. I can't. No, you have abilities. You have responsibilities. Yeah. And so you have to take them. And when you do them, and when you do penance and restrain yourself from, taking artificially big things, yeah, then you should. The gopis. It's describing the pride of the gopis. It's a part of spiritual life. Yeah. But beyond that, as you were saying, it's very satisfying. Two examples. One is, of course, Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya acquired the sannyas ashram, which can be looked at as doing austerities, doing certain things, and then you get initiated into the ashram by in the Shankaracharya ashram or something. You got to pass certain tests for education and austerities and realization of the body and these kind of things. So the Lord Chaitanya did that for the purpose of preaching. And then Swarup Damodar, who was associating so closely, he wanted to leave his PhD work and become a full-time devotee, full-time brahmachari in the temple. His culture was directly Gaudiya Vaishnava culture. But even though he had all these assets and could perform Prabhupada told him, no, you stick with his PhD. He didn't want to do it. So Prabhupada pushed him, and so, okay, I'll do it, Then what he was doing was an experiment where he had to deal with certain chemicals, putting certain enzymes, catalysts in at a certain time, and see how long it took for this reaction, that reaction, and then start the experiment with the other combination of chemicals. And usually, what the other students were doing was they would be able to run it maybe 2 times in a day, and some of them would stay a little longer and do it 3 times in a day. But he wanted to finish it off so he could get his doctorate, have it for preaching, which was very useful. So he moved a bed right into the laboratory, and he would wake up every, I think it was 3 hours, and he finished the thing off like way ahead of all the rest of the students. And the professor was very happy, and everybody else was, laughing and saying, "Well, yeah, you wanted to finish it quick. Okay, we're having a good time drinking beer," and yeah. So here's an example very much of acquiring education, material but he could relate it. He actually wrote books on using chemical language, to explain concepts to chemists. He would talk about free radical oxygen and the soul, and they would go, "Oh yeah, yeah," because every community has its poetry. So yeah, within the scientific atmosphere, Prabhupada pushed some people to go back and get their doctorate. Some people he put them right into the administration and trained them up in management. Other people he in Australia instead of Krishna consciousness will be spread by cooking. Yeah. So yeah, I know devotees who know 50 different recipes, not variations of the same recipe, and they could do it. It was unbelievable. I cook halava and khichdi. That's it. It's kind of, and other than that, I peel bananas. But I'm really good banana peeler. So yeah, all these things can be, and not only can be, they must be used. That's what enthusiasm means. Prabhupada's almost paraphrasing Utsahan there. Yeah, yeah. And a qualification for advancement Upadesham reason number 3 is number 3. Utsahan Nishchaya Daryat. And Prabhupada says voluntary activity executed for Krishna with intelligence is enthusiasm. And that's why you advance. So you have to keep your intelligence there. What am I trying to do? How can I do it? And when you lose those, you lose your enthusiasm. And once you got those, you do something. Jayananda said, do anything. Anything which will take you forward towards that goal. In a process you realize is going to work, and boy, then it'll grow. It'll grow. Yeah, yeah. Is that an enthusiastic answer?
Very much. Yes, Maharaj. Very, very much.
Okay.
Yes. I do not have a question per se, but I have one humble request from you, Maharaj. My guru, His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, established an institution called Institute for Applied Spiritual Technology.
Yeah.
And from his teachings, we understand that in order for one to be successful in anything, everything, including spiritual practices, one should learn the technology of that particular art and apply it the way it's supposed to be applied.
Yes.
And I'm not a very prayerful individual for 2 reasons, because I almost feel ashamed approaching Krishna for my material needs, because almost every time I have to pray to Krishna, I'm going to be asking him for something material. So I feel ashamed doing that. And then 2, I know Krishna is master mischief. He might not even answer my prayer. But due to my spiritual master's approach of applying the proper technique, when I have to pray, I go to the guru, I go to the spiritual master. Because when the spiritual master also directs my prayer to him, to Krishna, then it might be difficult for Krishna to say no. And based on that, Maharaj, my humblest prayer to you is that we all come to you to ask for your blessings, that under no circumstance should we ever leave Srila Prabhupada's beautiful house that he has built for us all, ISKCON. And 2, that we do not just live in the house and make the house uninhabitable. We should try to make the house a home so that anyone living in the house will feel at home. And third, but not the least, which is, of course, my last request is you are here today partly because of Her Grace Giridhari Puja. She is my little niece, and it is my humblest request from Your Holiness that you bless her to continue immerse herself in her service to Guru and the devotees. These are my humblest requests to you, Maharaj, and also possibly having your divine association again in the near future. Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Thank you very much. I see your virtual background there, you know? Yeah. Is that your house? It has no walls. Has
Yeah.
funny ceiling. Yeah. Yeah. The house that is a house everybody can live in because it has no walls and everything. Yeah. 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 The one thing is very what you're talking about, I've been thinking about it is because I went through Grihastha ashram rather quickly, you know, but you know, we were going through it, my wife and I, Deborah Jane Graff, and finally we decided, okay, we're going to settle down, and okay, we're going to buy a house. So I got a house, you know, but she made it a home, and I was really seeing that. It was actually, we got this place, and it was, you know, it was got it rather cheaply. It was, well, it was this and that going on, had a roof and stuff, you know. But then she called up her cousin Peach. I picked Peach up at the bus station, and then next morning they pushed me out of bed, stole my wallet, you know, had me tearing up the carpets, and then doing all this stuff. And honestly speaking, cannot remember a day more fun in my entire life, you know. And that's when I realized, you know, what is a woman's role, you know. Okay, a man, you know, I might say that the men in ISKCON can you know develop Prabhupada's house, but it's up to the women in ISKCON to make it a home. Yeah, and so we hope that your little niece and goes ahead and does her job, and we'll do our job. You know? So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
I also hope that maybe sometime also we can join more. We learn a little bit more about your sangha and so on. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Devotees are usually very quiet, but we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation to His Holiness Hanumatpresaka Maharaj for sharing his love and wisdom with us all today. Please, you may all unmute yourselves. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Chakalpatarubhyascha, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. His Holiness Hanumatpresaka Swami Maharaja ki jai. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to assembled Vaishnava devotees.